All right, good morning, RSU 19 and everyone across the state of Maine. We're going to start right at punctually here at 10 o'clock. I've got by my clock. A couple of quick updates as we go forward. First up, don't forget to do that attendance. If you go right to rsu19.info, it says attendance sign in right there. Click on that link, just click submit, and you are signed in. If you're not in RSU 19, don't worry about it. Welcome, welcome. I'm glad you're here. But don't feel like you have to join us. Whoop, mute everybody here. Make sure you are muted when you join. That way we won't have people. There we go. Make sure you don't do mute when you join. That way we don't have different conflicting audio going. We're going to go through our questions from yesterday, but I also want to start with a great share. So our teacher, whoops, I am muted. Thank you very much for letting me know. I've done this now 2 days in a row. You think I'd learn? Just kind of refresher, please mute when you join. That way we don't have conflicting audio going on. What I was just going to say was good morning, and we have a share from our teacher, Tony Barboza, our science teacher in middle school, and she had a great list. I'm going to share this with you guys, and it is in the show notes. So if you go to rsu19.info or steampoweredlearning.org if you're outside the district, scroll down, you'll see the show notes right there for today's date. And one of the links there is Google Hangouts Meet Etiquette and Things to Know. So this is a fantastic document. She's sharing it with the students. I'm going to share it with you guys, so you guys all have access to it. And if you want to use this, for the class. So Tony's joining us right now. So Tony, I'm just going to share your etiquettes. I think this is a fantastic thing to kind of start this hangout with. So the first etiquette here, number one, be punctual, meaning start and on time. One of the reasons why, if you think about it, is all of us now working virtually, we may have a meeting coming right up. It's unlike in the physical world where I kind of step out as needed and go to the next meeting and kind of, go back and forth. But it's really important that if you have a meeting scheduled for, say, 10 to 11, you don't go beyond that and you don't start beyond that because people are joining. And people might be, getting ready to go for the next meeting. And ideally, also included that is be ready 5 minutes before the meeting starts. And so one of the issues that comes up is people are, starting their meeting, and then they're also still kind of figure out, oh, I lost my microphone, or I lost my camera, or that kind of stuff. So if you can do that a couple minutes, that's really good etiquette for virtual meetings. Number two, with large groups, mute your laptop and the background noise so it isn't overwhelming to the group. And you can unmute when you want to talk and mute again. And again, I think we've gotten really good about this. You as teachers, if you are hosting you're actually hosting the meet or the hangout, you can mute them if need be. One quick thing about this is a question that came up yesterday. Google announced, Google Meet for all education, and a lot of people around the country and around the world are using this now, using the service. So some of the features are being rolled out. So for example, somebody asked yesterday the feature where when you, the host, signs out, is the Meet still allowed to go on without, let's say the students are in there afterward? The answer is no, that feature's, changed now. So when the host shuts it down, it should close it down. That said, some of those features are being rolled out this week, probably within the week. So if that's not happening today, I would give it, say, a week, maybe less than that, and you should have. Because one of the issues is with so many people getting on, so many educators and students and so forth getting on, it is making a situation where all of a sudden their service is getting hit really, really hard. What also brings me up to another topic. When we start thinking online and some of the services we use, we really need to be mindful of which services, which online apps and extensions and services can handle the load. If you think about it, one app that came up with one of our elementary schools, they're having real problems with it lagging and slowing down and not being as responsive. Well, a lot of these services have just put out that they're going to give away for free for now to the end of the year. And so all kinds of people are using these that never did before. And they're using them very hard. They're using them a lot because they're at home, they're doing virtual hangouts with students or whatever it is. So just be mindful that if you're, what services you think are actually going to be worthwhile. One of the worst things that can happen is you have all your parents and your students join something, really use it a lot, and then all of a sudden it gets so laggy and so unusable that it just doesn't work. And so at the tech department here, we've really been mindful to really, as much as possible, rely on the big guys. And so the services of the companies that are probably most geared to handle this. For example, Google, of course, Microsoft, Amazon. Those are three of the big ones that most other services actually rely on them for their back end. That means that they're using their servers, their resources to manage their thing. Now, I'm sure going forward, things will ramp up, but we're just really mindful of that. If you're not sure of a service that you think, hey, I found this really cool website and it's free now for kids, can we use it? Just shoot us our way. And again, we're never going to look to say no unless there's a really good reason to, that it's not going to be as reliable or whatever. So just be mindful of that as we go forward. Another really great tip from Tony, from Ms. Barboza, is if your video's lagging, turn off the video and use the microphone only. And I think we've got really good about that, where kids are, if it does get laggy, and even right now, if it's kind of like choppy and maybe your connection isn't the best, if you just turn off your video, and again, that's just that button down at the bottom. There's two, when you move your cursor, there's two buttons. There's a microphone, there's a little hang up button, and the little one that looks like a video camera. So you click on the video camera one, it doesn't doesn't shut down the call. It just makes it so your camera goes black. And so you can just do audio only. Students can do that as well. And also, it might be a situation where, again, if it's really, really bad, they can use that call-in feature and just do it through audio only that way too. So if they don't have, internet or reliable internet, maybe they can just do it through the phone. Using the chat feature on the side to comment as others are talking at the same time. Again, really super handy. So you guys have been really good about that. If you have a question, throw up in the chat. It's just a way for, without interrupting everybody, that people can ask questions or comment or select with each other, which works really well. And then finally, be polite and remember this is a school chat. It must be school appropriate. One of the benefits, one of the reasons why we focused on using Hangouts, and I'm sure many of you have heard about another service called Zoom, which is out there and it's being very popular. Zoom is a little bit more geared publicly for, for businesses and so forth. Now, it can be used in education, of course, and districts are using it. But in Google Hangouts, specifically in that domain, our domain, so there are certain features there that are a little bit more protective. So if I don't want to allow somebody to they're calling it now Zoom bombing, where there are people joining other Zooms that weren't invited necessarily and putting things inappropriate and so forth. So again, there are reasons why we're choosing the tools that we are. And again, we're always open to suggestions. If you hear one that you think is worthwhile, please let us know, send us our way, and we'll vet it and think if it's can be usable and reliable, and we'll add it. As I mentioned, this list that Ms. Barboza put out there, the Google Hangouts Meet Etiquette Things to Know, this link is in the show notes, and we'll have that available for anybody who needs it. So that was very, very welcome. Thank you very much, Tony. And if any of you come up with tips and tricks or things that you find helpful to yourself as far as how you're managing your day, or I know a couple of teachers sent sample schedules that they're using with their own children, or that kind of thing, any of this stuff, we'll just combine it and share it with everybody so that everybody can kind of benefit from that. So next, going to switch gears and go back to our questions. And so these are questions that came in from yesterday from the audience that we'll cover before we get into our topic today. So one question was, is there a way to see, and I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I'm going to revisit it. Is there a way to show the faces of people in a Hangout? And so two things about that. One, there's a certain number. Right now we have about 25 people in this Hangout. So if it starts getting in the 20s or 30s or 40s, you won't be able to see everybody. Now you can click on somebody individually and pin them and see them, but you wouldn't be able to see everybody all at once. There's a certain limit number-wise. That said, if you do move your cursor in the lower right-hand corner of Hangouts or of Meet, and you'll see where it says Turn on Captions, Present Now, and there's three little dots there. If I click those three little dots, one of my options is called Change Layout. And so if I click Change Layout, I can choose how it's tiled, or it's sidebarred, or it's spotlight on one person. You can kind of arrange things there. And there's also the auto. By default, it's on auto, which means it kind of decides for you. And it will base that based on how many people are joined in the Hangout. So depending on how many people are there, that's what makes the difference. So that answers that one. And again, if they do change like a feature, like they add more things to that, it might take a week or so, or maybe 2 weeks, for them to be implemented across, across the world. Welcome, everybody that's coming in. Welcome, welcome. We're just talking about Google Hangouts right now and answering questions from yesterday. The next question for yesterday was about Google Voice, and we are going to do Google Voice, long promised. I'm doing this for you, Ms. Finnemore. I know you've been watching these and asked for this one specifically. So I am going to get on and do Google Hangouts, do Google Voice today, what that means and what that looks like for teachers. That's our big topic. And then the last one here was a question about getting a link for the video chat for their students, and then having the video chat, the host leave it, and then students still being able to be on. And as I mentioned earlier, the issue there is that is a feature that is now implemented. It's getting rolled out across all the Google Hangout services worldwide. One thing that, if Google releases a new feature, it will take a day or two or perhaps a week for it to get actually rolled out to everybody. It doesn't happen instantaneously just because of the scale, the numbers, the millions of people we're talking about, or multi-millions of people we're talking about. All right, I think I answered everybody's question. So now we're going to jump over. Oh, okay, 2 quick things. Just as a reminder. One is if you haven't done attendance, if you go to RSU, this is again in district, rsu19.info, scroll down, find the attendance link, click on that, click submit, and you're good to go. The next piece that I did want to remind people, if you are in Google Classroom and you have your classes set up for Google Classroom, if you would please share that class with your the Classroom account. And I did want to do a screen share of that just to remind everybody how to do that. I've got a lot of them, which is fantastic. And the benefit of that is if you are unavailable, let's say you get sick or something happens and we need to get into your account real quickly for some reason, do a screen share here, that we are able to get in there and help you as needed. So all we're doing, I'm going to go through a process right here. If you have a Google Classroom, I'm in an account right here. I'm going to click up on my waffle in the upper right-hand corner, that little grid, go to Classroom. Okay. In my class, so I'm just going to pick on one of these. I'll pick on this one here. In my class, I'm going to go to People. I'm going to do the other one. This one already has it. So let me jump back to the other one. This one does not have it. So I click in here to my class, go to People. In the upper right here, there's a little Invite Teachers link. I click on that. And the account I'm inviting is Classroom at rsu19.net. And that will, from my end, so Classroom, that account will click accept. So we'll accept it. And that way we can help you. If you have a question like, oh, something's not working in my classroom, we can kind of get into it easier. So that will be super helpful for that. All right. We're now going to cover and talk about Google Voice. And let me explain what it is and how that'll be useful to you and kind of some of the ins and outs of it. To do that, Google Voice is an app, is connected with your Google account that you can use to kind of manage and have its own phone number. So it has its own phone number and texting number that you can use separate. You can use it on a phone. You can also use it on the web. So I could call or text something from a web page. It can't right now connect to your school account because right now they're charging for that. That is, they've had that, this for, I don't know, probably 15 or more years they've had the service. And if you print it, it's called Enterprise, which means if we were if I was a company, we were giving, phones to our employees and we were managing them, they'd use Google Voice kind of managed through the Google App service. So they don't have it for free. They haven't had it for free for, a long, long time. So that's why we haven't turned it on for your education account, your rsu19.net account. So if you go on and try to connect with it, it doesn't want you to pay, that's why, or so your administrator. You can, however, use it with your Gmail account, your personal account. Now, I'm always very, very hesitant to recommend to people to use their personal accounts for anything as far as school related. But we are in very, unique times, right? So this is something a little bit different. One of the benefits of Google Voice in this situation is every interaction is recorded. So for example, if you text somebody or somebody texts you, it has it stored right there. You can show it at any time. It has a separate phone number. Not the phone number, not your phone number, your actual phone number. It has its own separate one. And so I have used that in my history. I've had my own Google Voice number. I've had it now for a long, long time. And so that's the one I give away. If I'm at let's say there's a business, they want my phone number to be able to contact me, that I do want to receive that text, initially for some reason. But then after that, I don't want to deal with them at all. I can just kind of mute them or screen them at that point. So I use that Google Voice number as kind of a buffer, sometimes for that purpose. And also, again, there's other features that I'll show you that's valuable and worthwhile. So step number one, this one, again, because we're going to do this on a phone first, and again, that's probably how you'll start. I'm going to do it this way, and so hopefully you guys can see. Let me put this up in the air a little bit. Let it focus. I know it's glare. I'll do my best. See if I get a little closer here. And I'll turn down brightness here. So the other thing too, we'll see if that helps any. So I'm actually using my son's phone because my account already has a Google Voice number. Once you have a Google Voice number associated with a phone number, it's kind of a one-time deal. Once you pick that number. Now, you can pay to change that number later on. So let's say I have the Google Voice number 1234, 567 or whatever. Later on, if I want to change it so that I can, change the actual number, you can pay. I think it's $10 once. So the first time is free, and if you want to change the number later on, I would say, take the time to pick a good number that you think is worthwhile, like you like, click on that, and that's it. Like I wouldn't actually change it afterward if I could. I'm going to mute somebody here. There we go. Okay, so all I did here is I installed the app. Went to the App Store, search for Google Voice, let it download it. I'm going to click on this. So the first thing it's going to ask me, what account? Now, again, you're not going to use your school account. I'm going to use my personal Gmail account. I already have one associated with my Gmail account, so I'm going to use my son's account here. We're going to go through that process here. So continue. Choose a Google Voice number. Search. I'm going to click search right here. Now, you notice here it gave me 3 sources. These are in Vermont. Okay, so it's like, what the heck? What's going on there? So it will search by the closest numbers that are available. There are not an infinite number of numbers, obviously. Like I can't just type in the number that I want because somebody already have it. So it will search regions. It might be Massachusetts. It might be Maine. It might be Vermont or whatever it is. That's the phone number that it actually be from that area. So I'll try Lunenburg, Vermont. When I click on that, you'll notice a bunch of different numbers. So here are just a bunch. And you can scroll through if you find one of these things that looks kind of cool. There's not an infinite list. Like I said, I can go back again if I don't like these. I'll continue again, search again, and let's say I'll do a different choice here. I'll go to Canaan, Vermont, see if there's anything I like better. Once you've done this, once you've picked it once, actually I like one of the other ones better, so I'll go back and choose that. Once you've done it once, and I am going to select it off camera. I don't think it's an issue, but that way I haven't recorded Kaysen's number. Okay. So once you've done that, I've chosen the number. I'm going to click next. Okay. It's going to verify to my existing number. And what that means is going to send a text to my real number, this phone number, to make sure it's really me, that somebody else isn't signing up for me. So I'm going to click next. I'm going to put my phone number. And then when I do that, it's going to get a text with a weird number in it, like like a 6-digit number that I will type in. So I'm going to type my number in right now. Send code. Once I send the code, it's going to come in here. It's going to look for that. It's going to text to this phone number. I'm going to type that in. So I'm going to look for that code. So if somebody's typing, I'm going to mute. Here we go. I'm just waiting for this code. Hopefully it comes more quickly. Well, I will show you on my Google Voice because this is taking a second for it to load. But this will send a code that I will type in, like it's like a 6-digit code, and then it's connected. So this phone. Now, the biggest thing to note is it will ask you, do you want to connect your cell phone number to the Google Voice number? Do you want them to be the same? And the answer is probably no. I would recommend no. I would keep them as 2 separate things so that the Google Voice number doesn't overwrite your existing phone number. You'll have 2 separate ones. There's one click and it says, do you want to or not? And you just say, no, I want to keep them separate. Let me pull up Google Voice on my phone just so you can see what it looks like once it's been established. Okay, so this is the Google Voice app. Same idea. I can call from it right here if I want to call somebody or text somebody. They're going to get my Google Voice number, not my personal cell phone. It's like a side thing. It uses my phone, but it's like a side app that does it just there. Phone calls are free. except they use your data, obviously, if you're using data, or if you're on Wi-Fi, they're free. They do cost if you call international. So if I'm calling overseas, they would have to add credit. But anything, domestic, that would be fine. It also, as I mentioned earlier, so here are the different people. It also stores all the text. So if somebody texted me, I would have that all recorded. And then it does a thing with voicemail. So if somebody calls, it will transcribe, if it can, what that is. I want to share with you and show you what it looks like from the web interface. So you can do this, you can Google Voice from the web interface, meaning you have a web page, a website, and it's kind of the same thing as your phone. The phone is just obviously the portability. So if I do a screen share here, okay. So this is what it looks like from the web interface. So I'm just at voice.google.com. And so this is just like what, I have a phone numbers over here. I could dial somebody and call, use the audio right from your laptop. I have do not disturb as on. I don't give, like I said, this phone number I use, I don't give it out to people I want to necessarily contact back and forth. And I don't want the expectation that somebody's going to leave a message on here that I'm going to, take the time to go check all my messages here. So it depends on what I want to do with it. But you can manage it however you want. What I'd recommend is play with it first. Like once you set it up, call your significant other or call your kids or whatever. Just kind of see how it looks like from their end and play with how that works. And like I said, all the text will be recorded here. I can see all the different text fields that if I've received text or got text from other people. You can archive. You can download all these if you want to. It's a really great service. I'm actually, surprised that it didn't. It did take off, but I'm surprised that it wasn't more prevalent than it has been. Jump this back up here. There we go. And so anyway, so that's what I would use for Google Voice as far as like with my classroom. Again, it's one of those things that I wouldn't, in another situation, typically for the class, I probably wouldn't push this out there, but more and more kids have, phones. That's how they're accessing, that's how they're connecting with each other. And so if that's one more method to be able to connect with them, I think that's worthwhile. Speaking of that, let me just check real quickly if there's any more questions. One question, what is do not disturb? So that just means that if somebody calls or leave a message, it's not gonna actually ring on my phone. Now, if you want it to, it can, but I have it set up personally so that my Google Voice number doesn't ring, my regular phone number rings. But you can set that on or off. It will also show you a notification though, hey, somebody called your Google Voice number. So again, that's preference. One question was, is this free? Yes, it's free in the non-education domain account. It's not free in the education domain account or domains because they want to pay for it for enterprise version, basically. But if you have your own personal Gmail account, it is free. Does it not allow voice message? It does allow voice messages. I personally, again, don't want people to think if they leave a message that I'll, have a chance to check it. And I want them to leave, hey, I'm waiting to hear back from you. So I actually turn that off in my case, and I'll just see the phone call. But you can turn that on or off. It also actually has transcription. So it will take the voice message. It will try to convert it to text. What do they call it? Text transmission now. Or what do they call it? Where you can read what was said. So question, we have to have their phone numbers to contact them, right? Well, yeah, just like a regular phone. So if you were going to text them or they're going to text you or call them or call you, you need their phone number, just like you normally would. If someone calls you, do they automatically have your Google Voice phone number? Yeah, so this acts just like a phone. It's just like having another phone number, kind of a separate one. So they would receive your phone number. This is not blocked. So they would see your phone number. They would see yours. It kind of works as a way, kind of like a buffer. So it's almost like this. This is one analogy I think might work. If you have email accounts, I have a couple of them that I don't use for my day-to-day driver. They're just kind of dummy accounts that I store so that if I want to sign up for a service online, but I don't want to give my real email address, I can give them this other one that I use just for that purpose. So it's kind of like a placeholder for that. And that's what I personally use Google Voice for, is I have it set up so that if I want to hear back from this person, but I also want the ability to, maybe it's a company voice for, is I have it set up so that if I want to hear back from this person, but I also want the ability to, maybe it's company or a service, whatever tip I want to. And you can do all the same types of things you can do in regular phones, where you can say only contact me if you are a contact, or only screen spam calls, or all that kind of stuff. You can manage just like you normally would in a regular phone number. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to share is this is a video by a teacher that was a teacher at RSU 19. It's been quite a few years, but any of you guys have been around for a little while, you might remember Mrs. Dominic. So this was she was a math teacher at the high school. And we actually set up Google Voice with her, way back when she was teaching with us for her to be able to interact with her students. So I want to share that. We're going to watch that. And again, remember that when this was taken, what Google Voice was, the features and the technology was very different than it is now. It's kind of improved. So I still think that's worthwhile. So I will do another screen share. And we're going to pull up that video. And this is linked in the show notes if you are looking for this. This full screen here. Okay, I'm here today with Sarah, and she's a math teacher at Nokomis, and she's going to talk about how she uses Google Voice in the classroom.
At the beginning of the year, I make sure my students have a list of resources they can go to if they need math help. And one of the really most popular ones has been just a number that they can text questions to me from. I was a little apprehensive at first. I thought I would be giving students out my cell phone number. I'd be getting prank calls. I wouldn't be able to document it if anything inappropriate happened. And I really appreciate Google Voice because it keeps a running record of everything for me. It'll do text back and forth, so you know what I've said as well. It will also, if I respond from my phone, if I can't get to my computer to respond, it shows up to the kid as the Google number, not my number. And that was important to me.
So how are ways that you actually use it in the classroom?
Right now, a lot of it are my freshmen, and they will text me and is that quiz really going to be tomorrow? What's it over? What was the homework? What page was it again? Things like that. My honors kids have gotten more into asking, can you help me with the second part of number 37? More specific things like that.
Have you found you're able to do math without a problem using the Google?
I struggle with symbols myself on my on my cell phone, so I use the tablet when it's something that's really complicated, and then I just post it to my website and they can go see it if they need to.
Are you able to turn it off when you want?
Yes, and just like anything, to be honest, I can just ignore it if I want to, and there's weekends when I do that. I try really hard to be upfront with them and tell them that when I'm at home, it's kind of my time, and I do want to help you. But if I'm busy, if I'm grocery shopping, I'm not going to drop everything and say, oh, yeah, just divide by 2. And they've been really, really great about that. They understand that.
What have you found to be the most beneficial thing about having this available to the students?
They have no excuses, nothing. Like, if you ask a kid, why didn't you come see me this morning? Well, my bus was late. Why didn't you stay after? Well, I have to babysit my little kid. You text all the time. You could have texted me that question and I would have responded. So that's my favorite part.
So for those of you who remember Sarah, I've shown this video before, different places, and I always get a kick out of it because one of the questions that other teachers will always ask is that really a student, a teacher, or is that a student? Because she's so young there. That is, again, she's been using, she was using this a long time ago, and it's been active, as you noticed, or maybe you could see. I know it's a little bit faded out there, but it looks a lot different now. It's kind of been updated. And so that's been super helpful. That way, you get more features. The other thing that I think is really important, and I did want to take a minute, and we have plenty of time today to kind of cover this part, is being able to turn off. So if you haven't had a lot of experience working from home in the situation that we're in now, one of the things that you are always able to have something to do. Like there's always, usually when you go to school, you physically go to school, you work, you might stay late, and then you leave and kind of, you bring stuff home with you, but you also have home time. You kind of have that split. It's really crucial as you're at home to take time and actually schedule breaks and schedule time and stick to it. That's why the schedule is so important. It's not so much that you can't be working. You can always be working. There's never a time when you could say, yeah, I'm done. I can just, walk away, because it's always right at your fingertips. It's always right here. So you have to kind of be able to do your best to say, I'm going to take, from this time to this time, this hour, I'm not doing any work, any schoolwork. I'm walking away. I'm going to hang out with my kids or walk my dog or whatever it is, and really be precious about that, precious about your own personal time at home. That's one of those kind of the mental health things that we're looking at, and kind of that as we're cloistered, and kind of hopefully the snow is finished. Like, we're not going to get more snow going forward. I don't know yet, but hopefully that's behind us. We can start getting more outside. The other piece of that too, just kind of a share, is on the rsu19.org website. We've added a health link. Josh granted this yesterday, I believe. So if you scroll down a little bit on the left, so a health link, and we'll be adding more resources there, in the guidance departments and the nurses and that kind of stuff, adding more resources there, either for yourself, or if you have students that might need that, or parents, or whatever it is. One of the reasons why we're working right now on schedules for our parents and for our teachers is kind of to bring back a little bit of that normalcy for our kids. They really need that. They need that ability to know what to expect and how to manage it. So that's what we're here for. We are hopefully a pillar for them to kind of cling on to. So somebody asked a question in the chat here. I'm setting up a personal Gmail right now, but I want to add a phone number. Should I do that if I want to also use my Google Voice? The phone number there, when you're setting up a Gmail, is just as a recovery number. And what that means is if you forgot the password for your Gmail, it would say, well, what's your phone number? We'll text you. The idea being that it's really you, it's not somebody else trying to take your account. If you have your phone, then it will go to you. The security around that is something and something you have. Something is your password, and something you have is your actual phone. And so you might hear that terminology called two-factor authentication, and it's two things. It's not just a password. It's a password and a physical device or a physical thing. I will say this, that yes, when in doubt, two-factor authentication is much more secure, and I would highly recommend doing that. The trade-off is it's less convenient. Whenever you're talking security and convenience, the more security goes up, the less convenience you have. The more convenience goes up, the less security you have. So there is a balance. Nothing's perfect. I used to tell a story with my students. I'd ask them, what's the most secure place that you could live? And when I kind of work with my fifth graders down to get to the point where they realize it's a prison. A prison will be very secure. You don't have to worry about people breaking in, and you don't have to worry about things happening. But of course, it's extremely uncomfortable to live in a prison. So we have a trade-off of comfort and convenience. We live in a house that has windows. Isn't necessarily the most secure thing. Nobody can stop somebody coming in that window. However, that's a trade-off we're willing to make. And the same thing with our security on our accounts. So if you're up for doing two-factor authentication, I would highly recommend it. In fact, what we might do going forward is I might do another topic on security, this kind of thing, because one of the things I'm noticing, I'm starting to get more spam calls, and some of you guys may as well, for even more things that are scammy, things that are not real. And so thinking about the resources for ourselves, what best practices for ourselves as far as what information do we trust and use, and also for our kids, like what things they should be. That's why it's been so important to have kind of a closed garden that we have our students inside of, that we kind of help and manage and vet what's going on inside of out there. Okay, so a couple of questions here. I think we've pretty much are good. That looks good. Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap it up. It is early, but I don't feel necessary to go to the whole hour if we finish up. I was just going to do Google Voice today as a topic. So if everybody's cool with that, I'm sure everybody has meetings as well and other things they can be doing. So again, this week we're going to stick to the 10 to 11 time frame. Starting next week, depending on other situations, we will likely push it down to later in the day, maybe afternoon or something. Again, I'll confirm that for sure, what time they'll be. Also, as a reminder, if you haven't already, make sure you click on that attendance link in rsu19.info if you are in the district. And finally, if you have a Google Classroom with a class, even if it's an existing one or a new one, please make sure you share it with that account, classroom@rsu19.net. So with that, keep those questions and comments and coming, and we'll keep trying to help you from afar. Thank you guys all very much, and have a fantastic day.